I really appreciate the support given to me by the evangelicals. They've been incredible. Every poll says how well I'm doing with them. And you know, my mother gave me this Bible, this very Bible, many years ago. In fact, it's her writing right here. She wrote the name and my address, and it's just very special to me. And again, I want to thank the evangelicals. I will never let you down.
Brand new from Donald Trump, and what a perfect way to lead into a brand new book. We welcome in Stephen Mansfield, New York Times best-selling author and founder of the Mansfield Group. His newly released book, Ask the Question, Why We Must Demand Religious Clarity from Our Presidential Candidates. Congratulations on the book. Welcome aboard. You couldn't be here at a more timely second.
Perfect.
Okay, so let me ask the elephant in the room question, kind of. How does Donald Trump have all this evangelical support?
You know, I think it's because evangelicals have bought into what the rest of the country sometimes does. We buy the catchphrases, the God bless America, and I'm a man of faith, but we never ask a candidate to drill down into more specifically what they believe. And so he's able to show a Bible on the air. Well, Joseph Stalin had his mother give him a Bible. It doesn't mean anything inherently. And so we need to, as I say in the book, ask the question, drill down, get them to make the connection between their faith and their policies, what they'll do in the Oval Office.
And he went to Liberty University and made the mistake in the scripture, misquoted it, and yet Jerry Falwell Jr. comes out and endorses him. Again, I'm not evangelical, so how would you explain that?
Well, I think that you have this leadership tier of the evangelicals.
Because he's above, he's not someone they call up on the poll who's an evangelical and goes into the 42% that's supporting Trump. Right. He's a leader.
He's a major leader, and he influences a lot of people. But has he asked Donald Trump what's the connection between what he believes and policy? That's the issue. So we've had years of, again, the God bless Americas and all the symbolism and people carrying Bibles to church on Sunday morning and having their picture taken. But what does Donald Trump believe, and how does it affect his policies? We've now had Bernie Sanders at Liberty University. We've had Trump. We've had Mr. Cruz started his campaign at Liberty. So just walking on the campus doesn't mean anything. Right. What do these people believe, and how's it going to affect what they do in the Oval Office?
Do you believe that Cruz is a better choice for evangelicals? Do you believe that his policies are affected more by his religious faith?
I suspect he probably has woven his faith more into his politics than Donald Trump. I think it's a fairly new game for Donald Trump, as we can sort of tell. I'm not endorsing him, and I'm not saying he's a better man than the rest of them. It's interesting. Everybody on the Republican slate is faith-based and evangelical-friendly. It's the first time we've ever had that, a faith-based and evangelical-friendly from the beginning. And even Mrs. Clinton is quite faith-based. It's just a different brand of faith.
Okay.
I know.
Forgive me. What is Mrs. Clinton's faith exactly, besides worshiping the almighty dollar?
I know. Yeah. I'm not endorsing her either, but in the book I make the point that she too is faith-based. She comes from that social gospel Methodist perspective. She is a woman who has a religious belief, a religious framework to her politics. The people on the right wouldn't agree with it. I wouldn't agree with it. But the fact is she's proceeding from a religious base. We ought to ask the same questions of her and understand the connection between her faith and her policies.
I know when she goes to black churches or in front of black crowds, she puts on the Southern accent and talks about, I ain't no way, how tired. I know that.
But Yale. Yale goes away.
but can she pull that off when she, again, not only what her husband did and was alleged to have done, but her support of her husband, and the claims that she was an enabler and attacked the women who claimed that Bill did what he did. Does that jibe with, religion at all?
Actually, the whole theme of forgiveness and redemption appeals to a lot of people, and there, frankly, is no segment of the American church more forgiving than the African American church. I can tell you, I go to an African American church in D.C., very forgiving, very loving. But the fact is, we're still at the level of sort of fluff, performance, and symbolism. What do these people believe, and how does it connect to their policies? That's what we need to be asking.
You talk about in the book, which is Ask the Question. I don't want to lose sight of that here. About how Obama mishandled his religion, and McCain, even Romney. Talk about that. Well, how Obama, specifically Obama?
Well, Mr. Obama just didn't ever come out clearly with what he believed. He wrote some books about it and so on, but...
Well, he went to a black liberation theology church. Yes. He couldn't actually echo the words of Reverend Wright and run for president.
Well, that was the problem. When he came into office, he'd only had Reverend Wright as a pastor, and he didn't really know how to distance himself, how to create the separation. He left the church, but he didn't really know how to do it. And then when he was in office, he had a lot of evangelicals as spiritual advisors. So he began to be a mixture. And that's why when he endorsed same-sex marriage, some of his spiritual advisors were
But
stunned.
he's trashed Christianity. He's brought up the Crusades. It seems
Yep.
like the only thing that moves
Yep.
him is not beheaded Christians or Jews hacked to death in a synagogue, but Muslims. That seems to be his only passion.
Well, what he is something hard for Americans to digest, and that is he's a very liberal Protestant Christian. Everybody in their town has a very liberal Episcopal priest or very liberal mainland Protestant, and that's what Barack Obama is.
All right. It's all in the book, folks. It goes beyond the presidential campaign. It talks about, as I said, Romney, Obama, and others. Very important. Ask the question. Stephen Mansfield, good to see you,
Great
sir.
to be with you.
Thank you very much. Give Me Five is next, ladies and gentlemen. I was on CNN's Reliable Sources yesterday. If you missed it, you're not going to miss it anymore. Just stand by. We're coming back.